really quickly. On the first page, your instructions. All right, so it says approximate all points of relative and absolute extrema of each function. Then approximate open intervals where it's increasing and decreasing. All right? So extrema, those are your maxes and mins. So it's obvious on this one that you have maxes right here, right? And you have a minimum right here. All right, so it says estimate because just in case it falls in between two, you can say like a half or whatever. I'm not looking for an exact value if it's in between. If it's on the crosshairs, give me the exact value. So for the max, we have a max at -1, 5 and +1, 5. Okay, that's a max. So now we've determined, is it absolute or relative? Is there anything higher than those 2 points on this graph? No, so those are absolute. There's nothing higher, okay? And then we're going to look at our minimum. We have a minimum at 0, 4. Everybody see that one, okay? Is there anything lower than that minimum? Well, yeah, the graph goes on indefinitely to negative, right? So while this is a minimum, it's not the absolute minimum because other things go lower than it. So this is a relative min. All right, relative. And then we're just going to give the intervals in between those points, all right? So using my x value here, this is an x value of -1. I am going to look from -infinity to -1. What is the graph doing? Well, it is going up, right? It is increasing from -infinity from this direction, right? -infinity here to -1. So I am going to say increasing there. All right? All right, so I am here at -1 to 0, right? That's my next interval, from -1 to 0. How am I going? Well, I'm going down, so I'm going to say decreasing. And then now my next point where I change is +1, right? So from 0 to +1, I'm increasing again. And then from 1 all the way this direction to +infinity, what's happening? I'm decreasing.
Can we put the arrows, or do you want us to write out increasing, decreasing?
Average value is similar to your slope equation, all right? Similar to your slope equation. So when you think average value, think slope. Think slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This interval that they give you is your x1, x2. Okay, they gave you x1, x2. In order to find your y2 and your y1, you have to plug in your x1 and your x2. All right? So I'm going to say f of -1, and I'm going to plug it in. -1 squared is 1, plus -1 plus 1 is just 1. Okay, so my y1 is going to equal 1. And do the same thing for y2. Well, y2 is f of x2. So I'm going to plug in x2. 2 squared plus 2 plus 1. So my y2 then is 7. So we're going to plug it into our slope formula. y2, that was 7, minus y1, that is 1, over x2, 2, minus -1. So 7 minus 1 is 6. 2 minus the -1 is 3. My rate of change would be 2. My average rate of change is +2. So the important thing here is to remember your types of graphs, okay? Y equals x just to the first value. That's a line. That's a linear graph, right? Y equals x squared. That's your parabola, right? Y equals x cubed. That's your little guy that does this, okay? You have to remember all these. Absolute value, that is your V. Okay. Y equals the square root of x. That's your little guy that kind of shoots off to the side there. So you're going to have to know those to be able to do these, okay? Remember, if it's on the inside, it moves it left and right. If it's on the outside, it moves it up and down, okay? So inside's left and right, outside's up and down. A negative just flips it, right? A negative flips it. All right, so let's look at this guy. So the first thing I'm going to notice is that I have a squared. That's going to take me to this one right here, a parabola. All right. I also notice that on the outside, they're adding 3. So I'm going to take it from where it would normally be 0, 0, and I'm going to go up 3. Up 3. And then the last thing I notice here is that it has a negative. So that means it's going to point down. So I'm going to move up 3, and I'm going to draw a parabola going down here. For these, you're just going to follow what it tells you inside, okay? A plus, this is really hard, means you're going to add the functions. That means add your like terms, by the way. Minus means you're going to subtract your like terms. Only like terms. Notice I'm putting like terms there. This little dot means you're going to multiply. Dot means multiply. So keep in mind, if it's 2 binomials, you may have to FOIL, like you may have to distribute, okay? That little dot. All right, if it's an open guy like that, that means composite. And that's where you put one inside the other. Divide literally means one function over the other. Really means just to divide them, I mean. And really the only way you can divide functions is put them on top of each other. Sometimes you can factor and cancel something out, but oftentimes it's just they're sitting on top of each other. All right, so let's look at the first one. They want f of g, okay? So that means we're going to take g and we're going to put it into f anywhere it has a variable, okay? So instead of writing t plus 2, we're going to replace just the t of the f, okay? So we're gonna replace it. So we're gonna, instead of writing t, we're gonna write 3t plus 5 plus 2. We're just replacing the whole thing with what g is. And then if we can simplify it, we will. And we can, right? This is just a 1 times that, so we can say 3t plus 5 plus 2. I can combine what? Yeah, my 5 and 2. 3t plus 7. That is my answer. If they wanted a composite with a number, you would just put the number in at that point and solve it. Okay, it would just be evaluating. For the next one, subtraction. The reason I picked a subtraction is because I have the most problems on this one with students. They forget to distribute the negative. So they want me to take h and subtract g. So I'm going to take h, this guy, and I'm going to subtract g, which is this guy. The reason I'm putting them in parentheses so you pay attention to that negative. The 4t is fine, right? You don't really need parentheses there, but you do have to distribute the negative through. So when you distribute this, you'll have 4t minus t squared minus 4. Both of those have to be there. And if you want it in standard form, I'm not sure how your answer key gave it to you. But both of these are correct. Either one of those are fine, since it doesn't say put in standard form. Yeah, so I would take either one of these. I would take this way or that way.